We identified every cell of Al-Qaeda in the world the year before 9/11. We identified the New York cell a year before 9/11. We knew there was going to be a problem. The Able Danger team tried to go to the FBI and Justice Department 3 times. We have the names. All 3 times they were stopped. We have the names of the person in the FBI that was told to deny the meetings. They were not allowed to transfer the information. That information, when I came out with my book, Louis Freeh, former FBI director, wrote in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and said on Good Morning America, could have prevented 9/11 from happening. That's not me saying that. That's Louis Freeh. And General Keith Lambert, our general in charge of special operations on horseback, was asked in this award-winning book, became a movie, on page 27, General, what were your thoughts when 9/11 happened? And he said, within seconds, I knew who had done the attack, and I knew it involved Muhammad Atta. Thirdly, after this all broke and I came out with my book criticizing the agency and started really going crazy protecting these brave heroes that were being abused by Defense Intelligence, the Inspector General for the Pentagon files a whistleblower paper. I have a copy of it. I'll give it to you. His name is John Crane. He asked for protection because his bosses in DIA refused to allow him to become a whistleblower when he told them that he was told to lie to the Congress. He was told to misinform the Congress. I have that in writing, Tucker. The 9/11 Commission is a cover-up. 1,000% cover-up. Zelikow was the lead of the cover-up.
Philip Zelikow was the chairman.
Philip Zelikow. He was handpicked by Condoleezza Rice. When Tony Shaffer met Zelikow over in Afghanistan, because Zelikow took a team through to see if there were soldiers who had maybe encountered some information about 9/11 in advance. Tony Shaffer had been back deployed in Afghanistan at the time. So he told his commanding officer I should talk to them because I was a part of a special team. He met with Zelikow. They exchanged business cards in Kabul. And Zelikow said to him, Lieutenant Colonel, you've got to see me as soon as you get back to America. It's very important. When Tony went back to the States, they had shut down his office, locked his office, secured all his files, and they then worked to destroy his personal reputation. They tried to destroy his career. I went to the floor and did a 1-hour special order, calling it a scandal bigger than Watergate. You can watch the footage. It's available online. I said, this is outrageous that the Defense Intelligence Agency is screwing a lieutenant colonel because he's telling the truth about what he was told to talk about when he came back from Afghanistan. Tony Shaffer then went to work in the reserves because he had been basically harassed by the regular army because of what Zelikow did.
So I just want to back up a couple steps. So you're saying what others have said before, which is that elements of the U.S. government worked really, really hard to hide the fact that they could have prevented 9/11, that they had all the relevant information and for whatever reason ignored it. But motive really matters here. Do you believe that there were people in the U.S. government who made a bunch of mistakes or were too territorial and didn't share information with other agencies, therefore 9/11 happened, which is basically the conclusion of the 9/11 report, I think? Or do you believe that there were people in the U.S. government who knew it was going to happen and allowed it to happen on purpose?
Well, first of all, the 9/11 report has no credibility. I don't believe anything that is in that. It's a bunch of garbage. It's a lot of paper that has no substance. And I tend not to want to speculate on things that I can't prove 100% myself, yes, or I'm not willing to take a polygraph. What I can tell you unequivocally is there was a cover-up. And before I answer your question, I would state one more fact. Tony Shaffer got approval from his commanding general after this whole thing happened to write his memoirs. His memoirs are called Dark Heart. So he wrote the book. He had a publisher. He went to his commanding general to review the book as his protocol. His commanding general said, fine, Tony, there's nothing there that's a problem. Publish it. Tony publishes the book. Our deep state finds out he's publishing the book. A cease and desist order is issued against the publisher. Stop publishing the book. It's too late. Our government buys all 10,000 copies of the first edition of Dark Heart with taxpayer money, and they destroy them. So I asked Tony on a show last September, as I've done many times, Tony, you have the original version of the book, right? Yes, here it is, Congressman. You have the redacted version, right? Yes, here it is. What did they want out of your book that was so sensitive? What secret information were you giving, Tony? What classified information did your boss not see? He said, Congressman, the only thing they wanted out of my book was the fact that I named Zelikow and that I had briefed him in advance. That, Tucker, is treason. That means our agencies use their position not for something involving our national security, but for involving a cover-up of a person's identity who was publicly approved by the Congress of the United States, appointed by the security advisor to President Bush. It's a massive cover-up.
It's one of the saddest things about this country. The country's getting sicker. Despite all of our wealth and technology, Americans aren't doing well overall. Obesity, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, all kinds of horrible chronic illnesses, weird cancers are all on the rise. Probably a lot of reasons for this, but one of them definitely is Americans don't eat very well anymore. They don't eat real food. Instead, they eat industrial substitutes, and it's not good. It's time for something new, and that's where Masa chips come in. Masa has decided to revive real food by creating snacks how they used to be made, how they're supposed to be made. A Masa chip has just 3 simple ingredients, not 117. 3. No seed oils, no artificial additives, just real delicious food. And I know this because we eat a ton of them in my house. And by the way, I feel great. So you can still continue to snack, but you can do it in a healthy way with chips without feeling guilty about it. Masa chips are delicious. They taste how a tortilla chip is supposed to taste. But the thing is, you can hit them really, really hard, and I have, and not feel bloated or sluggish after. You feel like you've done something decent for your body. You don't feel like you got a head injury, or you don't feel filled with guilt. You feel light and energetic. It's the kind of snack your grandparents ate. Worth bringing back. So you can go to masachips.com. Masa's M-A-S-A, by the way. masachips.com/Tucker to start snacking. Get 25% off. We enjoy them. You will too. At what point following 9/11, since I just want to restate, you served in Congress for about 20 years, I think. Yep. And you really were at the heart of these questions, national security questions in the Congress. You were about to become chairman of Armed Services. So you're at the top of the pyramid for receiving relevant intelligence. At what point, you weren't just some random guy at all. At what point after 9/11, the attacks of that day, did you realize there's something bad going on here?
Well, it started before 9/11 when I realized that the intelligence I was getting as the vice chairman of the committee was not really solid intelligence. I would get better information from Bill Gertz, a reporter that you know,
yes,
coming to me with anonymous sources leaking to him,
yes,
about intel matters. And I would then go to the CIA and say, why am I getting this information from a reporter that I know you're leaking from classified sources that I'm not getting as a member of Congress who's the vice chairman of the Defense Committee? Are you playing games with me? And they wouldn't answer that. And that's what they do. They play games by manipulating the media to put out a narrative. And then we have to deal with that narrative. So, Tucker, what I did, there's a group in Washington that was known as the Cockroaches. They're a group of people that work for the intelligence agencies that get along socially. And I knew them all. They trusted me. I formed a loose network of about 15 or 20. We met for breakfast every week in the members' dining room in the Capitol. And they would feed me raw data. Then I would go to the classified briefings using that raw data, and I would ask questions of the CIA in front of the entire committee. And in many cases, I was the acting chairman because the chairman wasn't there. So here I am, the acting chairman of the entire Committee of Armed Services that fully embarrassed the intelligence agencies. And I'll get into that when we talk about the 9/11 information and post 9/11 where they put bin Laden. The point is that the agency plays games with Congress. The Congress thinks it's getting good information, and it's not.
Yes.
The agency wants members fighting with each other over stupid things so they can do what they want. And it's not all. There are good people in the agencies,
yes,
that I worked with and I would go to war over. But there are some scumbags. I know those scumbags. At the appropriate time, I'll name those scumbags who have made millions and millions of dollars and are making millions and millions of dollars today. They're making it in Ukraine. They're making it around the world because of context they established. And all that ties back to their positions that they got, supposedly working intelligence for the U.S. That's not what this country's all about. And you asked about my daughter.
Right,
what happened?
So give us the timeline. So you, 9/11 happens, you keep ascending in Congress, and you really, and I remember this well because I interviewed you on these topics at the time, 20 years ago when your book came out, and you start saying, wait a second, the U.S. government really blew this. There are people who knew this was happening, was going to happen, and for whatever reason didn't stop it. And you're really the only Republican who's saying this. And then 2006, you're up for re-election. It's an even year, of course, and you're from your district in Pennsylvania after 20 years. And out of nowhere, the FBI raids your daughter's house. And we're all told it's because she's corrupt, you're corrupt, et cetera, et cetera. And then you lose, and we kind of lose track of you, and Washington goes on as it does, and no one talks about 9/11 again. I think that's fair to say. I mean, I was there. I remember when all this happened, though.
Covered it all.
I didn't put it together in my head at all until about a year ago. I was thinking about this in the shower. Whatever happened to Curt Weldon and his daughter? So I go on the internet, I'm like, is Curt Weldon's daughter in prison because she's so corrupt? Like,
Never talked to.
So what happened? So
okay, well, here's what happened.
2006.
In 1999 and 2000, they wanted me to run for chairman of the committee and jump over 4 or 5 members.
Which committee? The
Armed Services Committee. But in Congress, the protocol is you wait
Of
your
course.
time. So I have letters, which I can show you, Tucker, from Donald Rumsfeld endorsing me to become chairman of the Armed Services Committee in 2000.
Yes.
I have a letter from Deputy Secretary of Defense John Henry endorsing me to become chairman of the committee in 2000. Dozens and dozens of letters. Then 9/11 happens. I felt personally responsible because I knew that we could have prevented it by the information that the Able Danger team established by General Hugh Shelton had gathered and tried to transfer 3 times and were blocked. So I said, I owe this to Ray Downey. I'm wearing his jacket today. I owe this to the firefighters in New York and around the country to get to the truth. If it's the last thing I do. And I owe it to all those soldiers that we're now sending overseas.
That's right.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.